Okay.
Okay, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day outside, and we're going to bring that weather with us into this interview. Um, this is what our office is calling Trio Talks, and we alternate weeks between people that work in Trio and then students that have participated in any of the seven programs that Trio has. There are four programs that work with students to get them into college, and then there are two or three programs that work with them while they're in college. So, while we were doing our planning for what we need to do for the upcoming year, we were talking about this idea of doing it in the fall. And Philip was like, I'm gonna work with you on this, Cameron. So thought that we could just start this semester, and we're gonna continue through the summer, and we're gonna get people interested, and we're gonna make it relevant, make it entertaining. And the hope is that more people see what we do and that it works. So there's an expression when you're around anyone that works in Trio or when students come to an event that's a large event.
Make sure everything's cool and safe, and then we get it. They've been so
And
ramrushy,
if
but
everyone could go ahead and mute themselves, we won't have the echo in the background.
the weeds will start up on our own. And then
So there's this expression that people say Trio works, and it's used to motivate, but what I think shows that what we do works is by people talking about what we do and how they've benefited. So this is a simple formula for this interview, just like last week. So our first guest was Darla Ellett, the executive director of collegiate trio programs at Southeastern, and she spoke about her story, but we have the person talk about themselves, talk about the effects of what they've seen in students' lives or their own life, focusing on how it's benefited their career, how they've seen success and relevance and longevity in their career, and then how they've also helped them to stay relevant socioeconomically or have financial success as a result of participation in a trio program that helped them beyond something beyond something that they would have been doing without this. So this has given them options. And then lastly, we focus on gratitude by teaching and focusing on how that person uses gratitude in their daily life for what they've received. So our this week's guest is someone that everyone may know if they live in the southeastern Oklahoma area. So I just got up and came here today, but Philip flew in from Belgrade, Serbia again, so he's the world
I
traveler.
barely made it on time.
And then we have some students in the audience, so thank you guys for attending. And our speaker is joining us from an undisclosed address somewhere in southeastern Oklahoma. So so thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand it over to Philip.
Thank you, Cameron. I always laugh anytime Cameron talks about himself or anyone else in terms of whether people know him or not, because you never know what comes out next. Um, so, our second guest, guest number two, we can call him that, is Danny Cryer. Danny is a Student Support Services TRIO alumni. He graduated cum laude with a major in criminal justice. Has works as a campus police officer since 2020. Worked as a county sheriff in Marshall County as well. He was recognized in the Oklahoma Trio book in 2025. And currently, Danny is working on his master's degree in Native American leadership. Now, before we um, move on, I do have to mention a couple of things. Um, related to Danny, referring to him. So one thing where I'm going to say right away, among other things, obviously, we're trying to balance this out between too serious and not serious enough. But thanks to Danny, I'm part of the things that I do in the evenings with our students, a soccer club. And thanks to Danny, we were able to use the field because he would be in charge of letting us in, getting the lights on. And without Danny around, we wouldn't be able to do any of that on those evenings. Also, tomorrow we do have an event here on campus uh, on our second floor. And as a part of the discussion is the attire and the dress code. I just want to say, Danny, uh, you can go ahead and show up in your work uniform. That's absolutely fine. No need to change. No need to do anything specific about that. So just feel free to come in your work uniform. Now, with that, uh, let's get back to business. And the first question I want to ask Danny is, I want to welcome him and have him tell us a little bit about his life before, I guess, before the college life and before being part of the trio. So how did that look like? And really anything you want to share, Danny, it can be related to your work or anything else. You go ahead and tell us.
Well, Philip, I tell you what, that's kind of a long story. My audio coming through all right? It looks like I've got some bandwidth issues.
Now it's better.
Is my audio okay, Philip? Or can you hear
It
me at
is
all?
good now, yeah.
Much better? Okay. So, I was born and raised here in southern Oklahoma. Grew up 20 miles from Southeastern, and came from a blue collar background. My dad worked in the manufacturing field. He actually mounted tires to put on horse trailers. And when I graduated high school, he said, "So are you going to college or are you going to work?" And much like most people around here, I said, "I'm going to go make some money." So went to build horse trailers for a couple of years, and our county sheriff ended up being escorted to a new home by the Federal Bureau of Investigation for some crimes, which left our community with no law enforcement, essentially. So the county commissioners had gotten together and asked for volunteers to put ourselves through a small academy and handle the law enforcement for the county. And I was freshly married in about 97 and thought, you know what, that's a good way to save some money. I can drive around on somebody else's gas and keep myself entertained for the weekend. That lasted for about 6 years, and the sheriff at that time asked me if I would go full-time and just be a full-time deputy. And I agreed. And I went from that till about 2020, when I became the sheriff, or I became the sheriff in 2016. And then in 2020, I ran for reelection during the COVID year and lost that election. But like many of my friends and family said, you don't have anything to worry about because you've got, all this training that you've had in law enforcement, years of experience. You can find a job anywhere. Unfortunately, the first thing that I learned was law enforcement experience doesn't equate to a college degree, especially when you're looking for a state job, which was what I was trying to find. Most of your state jobs at bare minimum require an associate's degree. Well, since I'd never even thought about college or considered college, I really didn't know what to do. I was too old to join another police department because of the retirement, or the 20-year retirement that goes with those jobs. There's also a 45-year age gap or age cap. So if you're over the age of 45, they won't hire you because you won't qualify for retirement. So I couldn't go to work at a regular police department. Didn't have education to go any higher. I mean, as far as a state job. So I was kind of stuck. I had no idea what to do. The first blessing came in that same year when my daughter graduated high school. And with what I just learned, I told her she was going to go to college. She didn't have a choice. So she decided to go to Southeastern, and that made me pretty proud. So, as a proud father, I found out that Southeastern had a police department, and one of the benefits offered with that employment package was they would allow $5,000 a year in tuition waivers. So I thought, well, this is a good way I can support my daughter's college, get her the education so she don't end up in the spot that I'm in, and at least give her a head start in life. And it also gives me a job in the law enforcement field. I'm going to let my bandwidth catch up again. Um, so I started there at Southeastern, and after about the first couple of semesters, my daughter came to me and she said, "Dad, I don't understand why you keep giving me this money. I've got several scholarships, and um, I'm also native." And she said, the Indians are paying for the rest of it, so I really don't need the extra money you're giving, which is what every parent wants to hear, right? Their daughter to say, I don't need your help anymore, Dad." So I'm kind of a history buff also, and I got to reading a history book one night, and I thought, you know what? I'm sitting outside of a library here at Southeastern. I bet they got some really cool history books in there, and if I'm going to read those, might as well get some credit for it. I mean, I got this money that they're just going to waive my tuition for. So at 49 years old, I thought, sure, I can go to college. I can do anything. And that's when I learned I had no idea what to do. I didn't know what an entrance exam was. I didn't know who to contact. I didn't know who to pay money to. So that was kind of the beginning of my college career.
This I don't know about the others listening to this, and we're just started, so we don't even know what else are we going to hear. But just after this couple of minutes, I've personally heard so many things, different things that could be used as a valuable life lessons that anyone can use. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing all that. That's awesome. Um, Now, what, Cameron?
Oh, okay.
Did you want to go
Um,
next?
so, so you kind of talked about you were interested in coming to college and you had an interest in learning, specifically a history, and you had this, faculty staff tuition waiver for full-time employees that work here. And what role did Trio where did Trio get involved with that as far as the process of where you were at that time and getting involved with our program here? Um,
Well, what I learned pretty quickly, kind of where I'd stop my story is I didn't know where to go. I had learned that that Trio or Student Support Services had a program for unconventional students, which I was certainly unconventional, much older than the rest of the student body, and they also had a first generation program. So I started looking into both of those, and that's where I actually got my real start in the university. Trio had helped me with the entrance exams, placement exams, and got me enrolled in my first semester, and kind of got me going, got my start in college. Because honestly, from where I was, I had no idea of who to talk to, where to go. I didn't even know how to purchase a book through a bookstore there on campus at that point. And since I was the first one in my family to ever go to college, I had no family members to ask or to rely on. I was just kind of feeling my way out, and the second big blessing I got was Trio, because this organization was was huge in getting me started in the programs or into college to begin with. So that was my first the first chance I'd had to use Trio, and without them, I don't think I would have gotten my start. I wouldn't know where to start.
Now, Speaking of that,
Did that kind of answer your question, or is my audio going bad?
No, you answered it really, really well. Yeah, you're doing really good.
Okay.
you're definitely beating the audio today, regardless of the issues there. Um, Now, let's pinpoint that for a second. Is there
Okay.
is there a moment, a particular moment, a day or a time that could be, it could lasted for days or weeks during your college career where you felt, either on the verge of quitting or giving up or just going through some difficult moments for whatever reason where trio would kind of, let's say, step in and help you get through that? And could you recall
Oh yeah.
that?
Always plenty of difficult moments, but there is one that stands out. Um, so after my first semester, I had learned that OSU in Oklahoma City would give me college credits for my prior law enforcement training. However, I had to enroll in their university before they would transfer those credits. And both financially and just time wise, that made a lot of sense. So I transferred to OKC or OSU and OKC, and I'd used the trio program. I'd notified them and told them what I wanted to do. My plan was to transfer up there for a semester, get the college credits that they would offer, and then I wanted to transfer back to Southeastern. Again, I had nobody to turn to, so I had to turn to Trio, and I spoke with one of the employees there, and I said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." And that employee told me, he said, "Go ahead, I will take care of everything with the registrar. Do your transfer, and when you're ready to come back, contact me, and I will work with you in transferring those credits back to Southeastern to get you full credit here, so you don't have to take the same class in both places." And I completed that semester at OSU, and then when I came back, um, it was very frustrating because a lot of the classes didn't really transfer from name to name or course number to course number. And I was really frustrated. I thought I was going to lose a lot of the credits that I'd obtained at OSU in transferring back because those were conversion credits from law enforcement training to college credit, and Southeastern just didn't have a whole lot of those. So this is where one of my heroes in Trio came from. They would contact the department head, review the material in the courses that I was trying to transfer, find the best match for Southeastern's curriculum, and then contact the department head and said, "Hey, will this work for this class?" And either they agreed or they didn't. And what stood out to me about this was that Trio employee would call me almost on a weekly basis and say, "Hey, guess what? I've got you credit for another class. We finally decided that this course equates to this course at Southeastern, so you don't have to pay for that one and you don't have to retake that class." And that seemed like it went on for a couple of weeks. Um, so the frustration of not being able to transfer a lot of those credits back, and then the hero story of the employee going, "Oh, wait a minute, I've got you more credits. Hey, I've talked to your department head and I've got you another credit." That was a savior for me because as anybody in college understands how frustrating it can be to have to retake a course that you've already taken. That's an extremely frustrating moment.
Awesome. And now, since you mentioned quite a few times the word hero and other adjectives as well, do you mind being more specific and specific about as far as the name of the person, and then feel free to share a little more, even if it's not related to that particular moment, but anything else that this hero of yours could be mentioned for as part of your trio?
Well, as far as my Trio experience, Cameron was the one that helped me out. He was always my go-to. He was there anytime I had a question about school or otherwise. He's always been there to support what I needed. And I really didn't want to put him on the spot or embarrass him or anything. But Cameron's done an outstanding job for me. He
Hard to
was
do that.
always asking if I needed a tutor. As a matter of fact, one of my courses that I had enrolled in, my statistics course for my undergrad, uh, Cameron's first word as I explained to him I was taking that, and he was looking over my schedule, was, "Yeah, we've got you a tutor for that one set up. That's a difficult course." Didn't ask
Mm.
for it, and ultimately didn't end up using it, but it was just relieving to know that he had looked far enough ahead to know what I was going to need a tutor on and what I didn't.
Awesome. That sounds like Cameron. I also want to go back to another thing you well, pretty much everything you talked about just now, and kind of makes me wanna ask you just generally, do you feel like this is something that makes a lot of the students actually step back, if not even quit altogether? And you just shared about uh, issues with the credits and transferring. We also have students having issues a lot with financial aid, and that becoming an issue and then being like an obstacle just makes them say, you know what, maybe I will just you know, take a step back and see if I can come back later or not even come back to school. Do you feel like this is something that is not becoming because it's been there, but it's something that is a really big issue, obstacle, challenge to a lot of the students that don't have that 100% uh, help and support? You froze.
No.
Just give it a
Yeah,
second
and
there.
and being on campus and working with the students, I hear a lot of the same things. I hear a lot of students that they'll get into their first financial struggle and they want to give up and just stop. Oh, I'm sorry. It's probably my bandwidth. All right,
Okay.
screen and see if that helps. If I drop out, I'll drop right back in. All right, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Should be.
So, I'm sure he'll
Yes,
try
it's
to
probably
rejoin.
reconnecting.
So, one of the things I like about Danny's story is it kind of follows the pattern of what we see that how students benefit the most.
Yeah.
They maintain they have an issue of being work ready. There's some sort of barrier, and the student comes to one of our offices and asks for help, and then they're able to succeed. And I love that about Danny's story, honestly. And so
And
I'll hand the floor back over to Danny.
yeah, I also wanted to, I don't want to elaborate much, but back when we first started, and I did say personally, I feel like he shared some things that more than one level could be a life lesson. I was specifically talking or thinking about, right after the high school, it's not that it's not the end of the world, but there's nothing wrong with trying to make some money instead of going to school and just trying to figure out what you want to do in life. And we're all in a different position, so it just depends where you are. Also, when he mentioned uh, the day when his daughter told him, "Hey dad, I don't need you to be help me with school anymore, I'm good," it's definitely something that every single parent would love to hear. And that's life goal, speaking of those. But yeah, Danny seems to be back, so if you wanna.
Yeah, I think I'm back. Um, sorry, Philip. So to kind of finish that thought I had earlier, I'd spoke with a lot of the students on campus, much like you guys do, and financial barriers seem to be the number one problem. But a lot of these students, they just don't understand what resources they have available to them. if they're native, there's definitely grants there, and then the scholarship process is another avenue. And I just feel like I have to make sure these kids understand that it's going to be difficult. Nothing in life is going to be easy, but it's also something that's well worth fighting for. If you can't afford it, you have to stop. Sometimes that's just a reality. But if you stop for too long, there's a good chance you don't come back. So I try to encourage all these students to do what you got to do to make it to get that first degree done. And even if it's not the degree you wanted, get your first one, get you a job to make some money, and come back and get the one you desire. That's how I ended up in the master's program.
I think that's also a quote from a movie. Something it goes like, everything in life worth fighting for, it's hard. That's how you know that it's worth it. If it's easy, then probably it's not worth it. And yes, thank you for saying that, because just like yourself, and we do have quite a few students in the office that we can count on, that when they do have questions, they're going to come to any of us and come with those questions to discuss, and that's great. But we're also daily trying to work with kind of like planting that seed into those students that are, the first challenge comes up, they don't bring it up to anyone, they just tell themselves, well, this is going to be hard, might not be something I want to pick up on right now. And that even includes a difficult assignment in one of the classes they're taking. And then instead of talking that out with anyone, it's like, well, I don't want to do this, it's too hard, let's move on. And then before you know it, they're out of school. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to avoid.
Unfortunately, I've had that same conversation of a student who says that, well, I'm not going to pass anyway, so what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to encourage those students to keep going. It's, one failed class is not the end of the world, and it's certainly not going to be the last one or the last thing you're going to fail at. I always tell students what makes you the person you are is how you deal with those downfalls in life.
So,
Yeah.
talking about what life would be like with a student not continuing, without Trio, without being part of uh, student support services at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, where would you be today if you had never joined Trio?
That's a difficult question. I would probably still be a security guard at Choctaw Casino because, again, that's the only thing I really qualified for. Um, I certainly wouldn't have the mindset that I've got now. Being able to do what I've done, starting college at 49 years old was something I'd never dreamed I would do, and honestly never thought I would do. And I'm 3 classes away from getting a master's degree. Cameron, I thought I never saw myself going to college, much less having a master's degree. I don't know. It's a very difficult question. I'm not sure where I would be, but I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't be as positive minded as I am now. Just the fact of knowing that without Trio being involved and completing the college career that I've been able to complete, the choices are so limited that you never see yourself going any higher. At least with a college degree, the sky is kind of the limit as far as employment's concerned.
Then well, again, personally, I always enjoy having conversations with you, and usually it happens that when you and I talk, it's completely off the record. It's nothing formal, nothing official, and definitely using this chance to have you as a guest for this past 30 minutes or so. You said so much that anyone listening to this can definitely benefit from. But I do want to ask this one last question from my part. Um, if you were to give the advice, so I want to be more specific. If we talk about a person, an individual, a student who is on the verge of not necessarily quitting, but let's say maybe not being sure if continuing and moving on is going to bring them any positive, and just being, let's say, lost in life at the moment, what would be so the advice from Danny as a person, as a campus police officer, as a former student, current student, whatever, something that you would uh, tell this individual right off the bat, what would it be?
My advice would be before you make that decision, do some research, talk to people. There are resources out here that can help you get through almost any challenge that you have. Don't do it on a whim. And if that's what you decide you need to do, talk to as many people as you can that have knowledge in that area before you make that decision. Because as simple as it sounds, that is, in my opinion, a life altering decision. It will completely change or could change the trajectory. Can't speak now of your life. Much like mine, I didn't want to go to college. I set myself on a path, and I realized at the end of that road, I took the wrong path. I wished I had spoke to more people when I graduated high school about college before I just decided to quote unquote go make some money.
Very good, very good. Well, I think I'm gonna turn it back over to Cameron as he has a couple of things that he wants to share.
So we are going to leave if time at the end, if a student in the audience or people in the audience would have a question related to Danny's story. This is kind of the wrapping up point of the interview.
And
Um,
I'm sorry, but yeah, feel free if you guys do have questions, you may type it in the box and we can just read it out loud at the end. If you would rather do that, or if you want to wait and just turn your camera on and ask a question, anything you want to ask, just go for it.
so I think, like you said, research can be very informal of just teaching and asking someone their experience of what's worked for them. So I think a lot of times when people say, you need to be grateful for this or be grateful for the opportunities you've been given, sometimes I think, seeing can be believing of what the experience look of how that person practices gratitude and how they can teach other people to practice gratitude. So in my mind, it's an action that people can teach. And you've talked a lot about, experiences and being thankful and how this TRIO student support services program has helped you. So how do you practice gratitude for how you've been helped in this TRIO program?
Well, I think the largest way I do it, Cameron, is exactly what we're doing here, and that's by sharing my story. By getting my story out there, I'm hoping that other young minds will hear that and not make the same mistakes I did.
So how do you individualize that for each student that you come across on campus?
Well, if you know me or not, I'm kind of a chatty Cathy. I enjoy conversations with anyone, and I will take any opportunity I can to speak with a student. I feel like without that, you're not going to build a relationship with any of them. And I like to build relationships with the student body. So by seeking out these students, and some of my training will teach me what to look for when students or people are having a difficult time. And I try to seek those out more specifically than any others. But any chance I get to be involved in a community or I say a community because Southeastern is kind of a community, but a a college event or gathering, that's where I go. That's where I gravitate to, and that's how I start those conversations.
And if someone was to ask you, let's say it's a student, like what are routines or behaviors that you do that help you in being grateful or reminding you what to be grateful for? What do you do daily that helps you? Those little routines or little behaviors that help you daily to remind you of that.
Honestly, they're kind of one and the same. Um, I enjoy speaking with students, and I enjoy passing knowledge on to them. So it's just as rewarding for me to speak with a student and give them advice as it is for the student to get the advice, I feel like. So my reward is finding those students and getting to have meaningful conversations with them about whether it's grades or their future or their major. Um, I, I feel like building those connections serves not only me, but the student as well.
Well, you've given a lot of wisdom and a lot of really good experience in everything that you've said today. And for your interview, I'd like to thank you. And I know Philip and I are very grateful for you. And I am very honored to just know you. But thank you for showing us how Trio works and how it's been relevant to you and staying relevant with work for what your future plans are. And I have full confidence that you're going to do something really good with your master's degree.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
are there
Thank you, Danny. And I was gonna say we do have 9 people in the audience, and I'm sure that out of 9 people, there must be at least one that either has a question or would like to share something or just say anything to Danny or us. We do have a few more minutes, so don't uh, don't hesitate.
No, I'd love to hear from you.
Darla did thank Danny for being with us today. So
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It popped up on my screen. I enjoyed that. Thank you, Darla.
You're welcome. I do have a question for you.
Okay.
You had mentioned your story as a non-traditional student and some of the hurdles that you went through. One of the questions I have is, being a non-traditional student, what are some ways that you would maybe encourage those non-traditional students? And non-traditionals, typically anybody who's been out of school for 5 years ish. Okay. What would you say to those people who may be thinking, well, I'm too old, or I can't do this. I'm not as smart as the kids. What would you tell those individuals?
I would let them know that college is not what they think it is. When I started, I had that exact feeling. I am way too old for this. I'm not smart enough for this. I'm not gifted enough for this. And I was wrong. With today's technology and online students or online classes, it completely opens up a schedule for a full time employee. I've the entire time I've done this, I've worked 40 hours or plus 40 hours a week, and it's a great way to fill up some free time. Um, as I don't mean to downgrade that at all, but nights and weekends, if you have a busy mind, you can absolutely achieve a college degree with today's modern technology.
Well, and speaking of which, did you have much trouble with the technology? I would assume you had some technology experience with your career field that you were in before becoming a college student, but did you have trouble with the technology, and what are ways that you kind of managed that?
Well, honestly, it's just like any other computer program. At first, it's complicated and it's a little scary and intimidating, but after a couple of weeks, it's all pretty well the same thing once you get started. And once, well, of course, Southeastern uses the Canvas platform, and that platform is very user friendly. And what I tell most non-traditional students, because I promote Southeastern quite a bit, is it's 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 a lot easier than your normal job, because on Monday morning they open you up a list of things to do in the online platform. They give you a list of things to do, and by Sunday you have to have that done. No differently than a job, and not being confined to 8 o'clock in the morning to whatever class hours are makes that a lot easier for those who work full time jobs. So the the software is very easy once you learn it. It's very simple.
Joshua says, "Thank you, Danny." And I was going to mention one more time for those students that are here or they might be listening the recording later on. If you haven't known who Danny was or is, now that you know a little more about him, please, I encourage you to, when you do see him on campus, definitely walk up and say hi, talk to him. As he said, he is a chatty cat, and get to know him, better.
Yeah, by all means, if you see me on campus, don't hesitate to walk up and holler at me. I love to talk, especially if it's about myself.
There
Yes,
is a question.
yes.
All right.
So Harris asks, my question is, what would be advice for someone who is struggling on thinking of what they want to major in?
So my advice is, if you haven't picked out a major yet, there's no time limit on that. Start with your general courses, and that or your before you get into the electives, get your generals out of the way, and that buys you a little time to decide what you want. If you're to the point where you have to pick a major, pick something that you love or you're passionate about. Um, Sadly, not all things that make good money are things you can be passionate about. So if you love what you do, it makes your work so much easier. So the quick answer would be find something that you're really interested in or passionate about. The long answer would be if you don't know, there's no rush. Just continue with those general courses until you get to the point where you have to make that choice.
Well, we've had a really good interview, and next week's interview will be our Southwest regional
Carlos
president,
has a question.
I think Carlos has a
D'Angelo's.
question.
Okay, I'll get to that. Next week's guest will be our Southwest Regional Trio Association President, D'Angelo Sands. Okay, Carlos, go ahead and ask your question or put it in the chat. You can just type it in the chat if you want to.
Knowing Carlos, I pretty sure he wouldn't mind speaking up, but then he might be distracted at the moment.
Oh, you're unmuted now, Carlos. Go ahead. So Deborah Davis said, "Congratulations on the deep leap of going to school as a non-traditional student." Go ahead, Carlos.
Carlos is having issues. He's going to try to type it out.
Oh, okay.
We'll give Carlos a chance to type it out and ask. So once again, for tomorrow, there's no official dress code. As long as it is appropriate.
There's a story with that. I was asking if you could wear your police uniform or if you had to wear a certain formal suit or something like that. And someone in our office said, as long as he's appropriate, he can wear whatever he wants. So
So I'm sorry. It looks like Carlos has said, "How do you manage the school workload? Does it make it easier to break up school workload into blocks or one step at a time?" Carlos, my answer for that is honestly, I don't know. As far as my job, it helps me a little bit. I carry a laptop or a tablet with me, or even my phone sometimes. And a lot of the lectures in my class, I'll just upload and put them in the passenger seat and listen to those during drive time. It's really a lot more, makes the drive go by a little quicker when I'm listening to those lectures going to and from work. And then with my shift right now, I get off at 11 p.m. So instead of rushing home and just going to bed, I'll rush home and set up on the laptop and type on my papers until I get tired and then go to bed. Um, so it, I guess the short answer, how do I manage it? I just use school to take up any free time that I'm not spending with my family. Um, Sadly, there are some late nights and some sacrificed weekends, but I've got an extremely supporting family, and that certainly helps out a lot.
That Danny is your non-typical police officer. He walks around. A lot of the police officers, they walk around with, whatever they need to carry while they're working. Danny walks around with a laptop and cell phone.
Everybody got to fight crime in their own way, Philip.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Danny, one more time.
Thank you, guys.
We
I appreciate you guys giving me the
appreciate it.
opportunity to do this.
thank you very much, and you have a good day. And we'll go ahead and plan for attending next week to hear SWASAP, Southwest Regional Trio Association President D'Angelo Sands. But thank you very much, Danny. You did a great job today. Very proud of you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you all.